And wasn't that the life and ministry of Jesus is just a hallmark of that was his generosity to people.
I heard God say, preach from Matthew 7 and give the parable on building the house on the rock or on the sand. I had so many hindrances in my life, but I did it anyway. And so I said, if I did it, you can do it.
Yeah.
If I did it, you can do it. So I encourage people to put the foot forward and get there.
Welcome to Answers for Life. This is Dan Gardner. I'm here with my lovely wife, Pastor Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good. Well, we have been talking about, in this series, we've been talking about spiritual disciplines, and we have talked about Bible study. We've talked about prayer. We've talked about worship. And now today we want to talk about generosity, about being a giver. And we said that these spiritual disciplines are ways that we have daily activities and things that are put into our daily life that lead us to succeeding spiritually. And so we said if we build relationship with God, then the rest of that is going to come along. All of that success, understanding what our call and our purpose and direction and all of those kinds of things and the benefits that we have in him. Mm-hmm. If we seek first the kingdom, we talked about all the things that we need and that we're to become will come along.
Mm-hmm. When I talk to people about being generous, rather when they think money, because that's what they heard.
Right.
Be generous, buy a gift for somebody, do this for the church or whatever. They think money, gifts, things like that. But first thing that God wants to see, the major thing that makes God happy, when we pass on the truth around to others.
Yeah.
This is the way I learned. I had no idea the 10% and to give money. It was later when God revealed me about to give money. But at first, God waited and disciplined me to be generous and giving his word, giving what was I experiencing about him, to pass it on to others. And it didn't matter if they were little bitty kids. My grandkids, they were just little, 4 years old. I would tell her the things that God was doing in my life. So to me, we have to become generous spiritually first by discipline our mouth, discipline our mind. Don't worry about that, what people are going to think of us, but just think about it that we make God happy when we spread the good news on the earth, because the gospel is good news. Religion made it sound like it was not good news, like you lose something when you serve God. No, we gain everything when we serve God. And so we need to learn to be generous in everything we do, because the Bible says give. And it shall be given. If you don't start giving your revelations to others, God stops giving you more revelation. But the more you give, the more he gets giggly. Oh, they're doing it. Let me get ready to do another miracle for this one, because she's going to spread it around. See, just condition your mind now. Generosity goes first spiritually. Spread the good news around. Tell somebody. If you don't have experiences about yourself, start to give somebody else's experiences. Like I started to give other people's experience before I I experienced the big things for myself. Yes, there was a spread in what was happening to me.
Yeah.
But when I started to hear Paul Youngie Cho from Korea,
Right.
experiences that I had never heard it before, I would get on the phone and tell everybody what I had heard it. So be generous of giving the good news to other people and watch God do the rest. And He will bless you. He will bless you memory to remember. My children tell me, Ma, you don't remember nothing, but when they come to the things of God, you remember everything. Well, that's what I want to remember. I don't want to remember problems.
And wasn't that the life and ministry of Jesus is just a hallmark of that was his generosity to people.
Yes.
And I mean, he wasn't walking around handing out, it wasn't about money, him handing that out.
Exactly.
He was handing out the goodness of God.
The goodness of God. That's why Jesus...
Everywhere he went, he was doing good.
Yes.
And spreading the kingdom
As a matter
message,
of fact,
right?
We are mixed up. We want to help people financially before we even help them spiritually. Okay, you help somebody with everything they need in the natural, and they still go to hell. What good is it?
Right.
Our aim is to prepare them for heaven, and then look at Jesus. It just dawned on me now as you were talking. Yeah. The people who were following Jesus for 3 days. Can you imagine? For 3 days, they didn't eat, they didn't sleep. They slept on the floor, on the ground, and following Jesus. And after 3 days, that's when Jesus fed them. Mm-hmm. He didn't feed them the very first day. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He fed them after 3 days. So we can learn from Jesus how he did things.
But when he fed them, they had plenty. They had all they needed.
And left over.
Well, one of your favorite phrases that I often like to say when we're talking about generosity is you talk about us being the little Jesus with the skin on.
Yes, yes.
And the things that we saw him doing, these should be things that we're aspiring to and doing within our life, right?
Yes.
He demonstrated these principles. And we looked at, in the book of Acts, chapter 20, verse 35, the Apostle Paul writes something that Jesus said that we didn't see recorded in the Gospels. He said that Jesus said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Now, we all want to be blessed, right?
Yeah.
But how many of us want to be more blessed?
Yes, yes.
He said if we want that more kind of blessing, that we need to get in this mindset of giving to others rather than just in it being receiving.
And this is why I pray for that you would prosper and be in health.
Yeah.
Because if you don't prosper, you don't have nothing to give.
Right.
If you don't have enough for you, how are you going to give it to others?
Yes. And that's one of the primary reasons we're encouraging people in these spiritual disciplines, because if they get this working in their life, they have something really significant to be able to pass on to others, right?
Yes, yes.
But it doesn't, this idea of us giving, it kind of goes against the natural mind, because we're all born kind of selfish and thinking about ourselves, you know, and you think about, I remember when the kids are little and you have two children and one's playing with a toy and the other child tries to take the toy and one's saying it's mine, the other one's saying it's mine.
Both saying it's
and
mine.
Finally the parent comes in the middle and says, no, it's mine. And that's kind of our natural human tendency, is that it's about us. But Jesus was talking to the disciples and giving them like a new way of thinking.
Yes.
That it was about being motivated by truly caring for people and not just about ourselves. So this is one of the ways, when we talk about giving, a lot of times it's talked about in terms of our time or our talent or our treasure, which the money is included in that. But really, one of the primary ways, like you're saying, that we learn to be a giver is when we just pass on to somebody else what we've learned or what has benefited us.
Yes.
And that's really that's your heart for even doing what you're doing in these programs. You're
That's
just
why I
trying
started Bible study.
to pass on and encourage
To pass on
people.
what I was learning.
Yeah, tell us about it when you started the Bible study, because you didn't even have a lot of training in teaching others about the Bible. A lot of people think I need to go to a seminary for a few years and then I can teach someone else. But is that really needed? What happened with you?
Oh, well, what happened with me? I heard it on the radio, and in Michigan there is a lady. Her name is Joanne Randazzo. She was such a wonderful person that she wanted to help the Italian people find Jesus. And so, but she didn't know how to speak Italian. So she found somebody at the church that she was going and that could speak Italian. Mm-hmm. She asked him if he could go to her house and teach Italian to all these Italian people that she knew. She had 4 or 5 sister-in-laws because her husband came from a big family.
Yeah.
So, and the sister-in-laws knew other Italian people. So they were all there, and this man was teaching them. So when I heard this on the radio, Italian for Jesus invites you to attend the Bible study at so-and-so place. And it was over Joanne Randazzo's house, this Bible study. So when I heard it, I thought, wow, I was going to go to Italy that year. And my mind said, if I go there, maybe they have some kind of literature in Italian. Mm-hmm. I pick it up and then I take it to my family in Italy. So that was why I went. So when I got there were 25 women, all Catholic. And this man was teaching them Italian. So, and this was, I think, either the second week of the Bible study or the third week. I thought they had been there, but they had just started.
Oh, they just started.
So this man, he was determined to have them read whatever he was reading. He wanted them to follow the verse that he was reading. And so if he would say, let's go to Mark 4, and he said, let's go to Mark 4. All these 25 women didn't know how to go. Where's Mark? Where? So this man, oh my gosh, he would go one by one and open the Bible to Mark 4, find the verse. Now, this is the verse that we're going to read. And then explain the verse. When I went and I saw this, I thought, oh, this man needs help. Oh, I need to come back and help them. Mm-hmm. So my trip to Italy was going to be in a couple months away. So I started to go to this Bible study. And so after about, when I came back from Italy, and so, in my mind, I thought, this man needs help. I have to help him. He can take half of the women, and I can take the other half and show them Mark 4. I'm just using that one as an example. And so this way this man can explain the verse that he wants explained. So I went there the second time and the third time, and I went there all the time only to help this man. Mm-hmm. But after my trip in Italy and I come back, this man was transferred to Arizona. And the founder, which was Joanne Randazzo, talked to the women, said, well, Marie, she knows how to speak Italian. You guys all speak dialect Sicilian, but she knows how to speak Italian. How about if we vote her to be our teacher, since this man is going to leave and be transferred to Arizona. The job transferred him there. So, and they suggested that I would be their teacher. When I heard that, there was one thing to help this man, but it's two things for me to teach now. And I remember all day long, I was in turmoil with my, because I didn't feel efficient.
Yeah.
I didn't feel I could do this.
Yeah.
And so, but Joanne Randazzo, she was in Florida, and that night she was going to come back, be on time for the Bible study. She was going to fly. And she called me from Florida, and she said, Marie, I heard God that you're going to preach from Matthew 7. And I heard the same thing. Just an hour before she called, I heard God say, preach from Matthew 7 and give the parable on building the house on the rock or on the sand. And so that all day I studied Matthew 7, and that message is so embedded in my mind that it was my first message. And it was so anointed. To my surprise, God truly anointed, because I was shaking the whole time. My knees were shaking the whole time.
Yes.
I was teaching.
Well, and that's and you've done that through your life is you've extended yourself when it hasn't been comfortable, and that's a part of being generous, is that your desire is to give to other people. You really want them to receive what you've benefited from. And so we want to encourage the people in the same way, that it's not always going to be easy in your first steps, and you have to get beyond just the thinking about ourselves and what's comfortable for us, but what is going to be the benefit for God in building the kingdom and how we're going to help people. So we've poured our lives into raising up other people, right?
Yes.
Other leaders, other pastors, other worship leaders, and in my case, and this is one of the ways that we are generous, when we are not just trying to build something for ourselves, but we're trying to give this away.
Yes.
So that others can grow. And that's what I see was the
You can be generous by complimenting somebody.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised that people are so stingy with their compliments. They want to be complimented, but they're stingy on complimenting others. So that we can be generous. If you think generosity, you can apply to anything that you do, but separate it from money for a while.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later, but learn to be generous in small things.
Yes, absolutely.
And you watch, then God will take you little by little, and He provides for you first. Like I always think, when it comes to money, I always think of Abraham, that God blessed him first. He blessed him so much that he took 10%. Nobody told him to do it. There was no law then in the time of Abraham. But he took 10% and he gave to Melchizedek. And so, but that came way later for Abraham. Abraham had to learn to worship God, to do many things for God and pass it on to his employee, because the Bible says that Abraham, whatever he was receiving from God, he passed it on to his employee. So his whole household. And that's why God blessed him, that he knew that Abraham was not going to keep those things that God was doing for him to himself, that he was passing it on to his employee. Didn't have no children, but he had an employee. That's where I learned I have to be doing the same thing. For me, I started with my children, then my friends, and then whoever I came in contact.
Yeah. And this is in Genesis 12, where God said, I will bless you, talking about to Abraham, I will bless you, make your name famous, and you will be a blessing to
Yes.
many others.
Yes.
So he blesses us so that we can, in turn, we can bless others. And this is,
Yes.
I think it's a really important thing for the church to understand, because a lot of the way that church has gone has leaned more towards people go to a church thinking this is what I get out of that church.
Yeah.
This is what I receive when
Give me. My name is Jimmy.
yeah, where the part of learning to walk this walk with God is learning that giving is the key. And out of that we are going to receive. He's going to take care of us.
Yes.
He's going to bless us, but we need to come at it. If we're talking about worship, it's to come and give glory to God. We come to glorify his name, to give.
Yes.
We come to give. We should come to church. It isn't for just what we can get. Have you ever heard people say like, well, I'm not being fed at this church? Well, what have you come to give? What have you come to?
Yeah. Especially, I would talk to the people that they had been Christian for a while. I said, why you always want to be fed? Now you feed the new people that come to church.
Right.
There is always newbies that come to church that they need to be fed. And the pastor cannot reach everybody, so you reach them.
Yeah.
So start to be generous with your time.
At a point, you individually learn to pick up your fork and feed yourself too. Keep being fed when you mature.
Yes, until they learn, you feed them whatever you know.
Yeah. But God is so good at blessing, especially when we make decisions like that. And you were telling me a story about when your son Anton, he had difficulty selling a house for something like 18 months. And he made a decision to go and be a minister at the church. And do you remember that story? Because I thought that was a really good one on the.
Well, my son, he was different than from the other two. He was this Anton. He was a little bit more laid back than the other two. The other two, I had always go, wait. You're going too far. Hold back.
Too fast.
And then he had to be always encouraged to go. So anyway, he had this house for 18 months, and it was not selling because it was there was one bedroom upstairs, and they want to start a family. They need more space downstairs. So anyway, so they said we sell this house, we buy one that's a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. And so it was not selling. So I said to my son, I had this church we started this church in Howell, and I need someone to pastor that church. My daughter-in-law was a new Christian when my son married her. My son was already mature in the things of God because he had been with me, been seeing what we were doing. But my daughter-in-law was new, so I took a big chance. And I said, Andan, will you take that church in Howell? And Dan said, well, let me ask my wife and see what she thinks. Well, Shanda said yes. As soon as they made the decision and they said yes, the house was sold in no time at all. 2 offers came in to buy the house, and one offer, the guy, he was so in love with the house, he was so afraid that somebody else was going to put another offer. He offered more than what my son, $1,000 more than what my son was asking. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I thought, all because they said yes to God, God sold the house.
Oh, wow.
because they had to move in Howell.
Yeah.
There was already, I had bought a house in Howell. For anybody that would take their church, they would have a home in Howell. It was bigger home, nicer home, finished basement.
Yeah.
It was beautiful home. And so then they moved over there, and they pastored their church for a long time.
And I think we've discovered that one of the greatest joys in ministry has been not just doing it ourselves, but it's been seeing the gift in other people and raising them up. I was telling you about Ryan, who attended our church, and he was, from the time he was a little guy, like 7 years old or so, he had shown that he had interest in music, and that he would come to church, and during worship, he would have his drumsticks and he would play on the back of the pew the whole time we were in worship. And he became a phenomenal drummer. Then as a teenager, his mom had passed away, and the church kind of took him in, but we saw the gifting in him. And one day somebody said, "We need somebody to sing on this part. We think Ryan can do it." And he started to sing, and he became like a really worship leader at a couple different churches, and just God used him phenomenally.
Wow.
And we've seen how the blessing and the fulfillment is when we recognize the gifting in others, when we take this whole generosity thing seriously in terms of what we're doing in our life, but then we see the gifting in other and raise them up. And I know that's always what you're doing, is you find somebody with a little bit of a ability in leadership, and you're helping them come up so that they can do it. And that's been so much a part of your heart in ministry, is raising up other people to see them.
And I know that they can do
they can take it further, and you're happy about
better
it.
than me, and they can get there quicker than me, because they don't have the hindrance that I had. I have a hindrance that I could speak in good English. I had so many hindrances in my life, but I did it anyway. And so I said, if I did it, you can do it.
Yeah.
If I did it, you can do it. So I encourage people to put the foot forward and get there.
Because you really understood this thing, that God has blessed you so that you can be a blessing to others. And I know everywhere we go, every time we meet somebody, and it's some kind of personal encounter, you're looking to, it's at the nail shop. You were talking to someone the other day.
Yes.
You're always looking at giving to someone else.
I find a way, because there was a lady, she's a Hispanic, and she was very, very smiley, very friendly. And I thought, looks like a good ground. I can tell something here. And I forgot now. This just happened last week when I went to get my nails done. And I started to tell them that I have this program I do on YouTube. And so after she heard a couple of my stories, she said, "Oh, do you have a card?" I said, "Oh, sure." Yeah. So, and normally don't carry the card, but that day I had the card.
You had the cards, so you let her.
And I gave it to her. But in the meantime, the lady that was doing my nails, I noticed that she has a Buddhist statue somewhere. I thought, wow. Well, I'm talking to this woman that she's very much interested to hear the other one's hearing. So I'm always geared to pass on the good news.
Yes. And those of you who watch this program, you can do the same by sharing this content with someone else, sharing this video with someone else, so that they can be blessed as well. But we just want to encourage you, as you develop this spiritual discipline of generosity, to not come with what you can get out of something, but what you can give to it. I think that you're going to find such blessing in that, and then you're going to thereby bless so many other people. So could you bless the people because we're out of time?
We are out of time again. Oh my gosh, the time flies. Okay, we just want you blessed. This is why we're doing this. We're not doing this for money. We never ask for money. God has already blessed us. If you want to give, it's up to you. But we don't ask him for money. We simply doing it because we want to help you and bless you. Jesus says, freely you have received and freely give. And so we freely want to bless you today. And my declaration over you is this, that you be blessed, highly favored, empowered to prosper, walking in divine health all the days of your life. This is my declaration over you. Now, your part is to receive. Say, be done unto me according to your word, Lord. That's all. That's your part. I do all the hard work to pray for you, and you just do the receiving, and watch what God will do for your life.
Yes, and if you would just like this video and subscribe to the channel and share it with somebody else, we'd be really appreciative, and we just say God bless you. Thank you for joining us today.